Okay, so you should have, so find example 19. So you should have by now done the exploration I sent to you, and you should have seen that whatever this denominator is in the fraction is actually the radical as well. So all they want you to do when they ask you to write it in radical form is they just want you to write this in, so this would be a to the 7th root because it's to the 1/7. So the number on the bottom is the root. So example 20, when they ask you to write in an exponential form, that's writing it as a fraction. Well, they don't write the 2 here, but this would be a square root. So my answer on this would be w to the 1/2. And so that's exponential form when you write it as an exponent. Radical form is when you put it as a square root. Okay, so it wants me to write this in radical form. So I'm going to take and write that into radical form, which would mean that this is becoming a cube root, which means that would go with this one. So this would be the cubed root of a. And then this one is wanting it to write it in exponential form. So since this is a 5, I would be saying x to the 1/5. That would be exponential form. So sometimes, and we're going to see in the next couple of days, sometimes it's easier to write things in exponential form. Sometimes it's easier to write things in radical form. And it just really depends on the problem. Okay, so if I look at this example, this would be on the no calculator part of the test. And it wants me to do 49 to the negative 1/2, which means the negative sign, you guys learned in Algebra 1 in junior high, that would flip my answer. And to the 1/2 is telling me to do the square root of 49. So the square root of 49 would be 7, but since it's a negative, my answer would be 1/7. So this would be 1. Yes, you can check this on your calculator. Type in 49 to the negative 1/2. It will say 1/7, but understand this would be a question on the no calculator part of the test. So with this one, so I don't expect you to know what 32 squared is, right? But you should be able to tell me the 5th root of 32. Because, so I should be able to tell you the 5th root of 32. So I'm going to do this one first. The 5th root of 32 is actually 2. And 2 squared, because now I'm doing this other one, and 2 squared is 4. So my answer, is 4. So it doesn't matter what order you do this in, but I don't know what 32 squared is, and I've never asked you to memorize it. So that's why I do the 5th root first. You should know 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32. That is one that you should have memorized. Okay? So on this one, if I do 25 to the negative 1/2, I'm asking you to square root 25. That's what this 2 in the denominator means. But it's a negative, so the square root of 25 is 5, but then the negative sign makes me flip it, so my answer is 1/5. And then on this one, I have no idea what 16 cubed is. I didn't ask you to memorize 16 cubed. But I do know that the 4th root of 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So the 4th root of 16 is 2. And 2 cubed is 8. So my answer on this is 8. This would be on the no calculator part of the test. You should be able to do this one without a calculator. Okay, so on this one, you would need a calculator for, but it's saying the formula M gives you this, can be used to estimate the maximum total mass that a weightlifter can lift in B kilograms, right? Using a snatch and clean. So according to the formula, what is the maximum that a weightlifter weighing 168 kilograms can lift? So this is the weightlifter's mass, B kilograms can lift. So I would put 168 into there and I would hit enter. So, and I do not have a calculator, so you'll have to try that on your own and get your answer. But remember, these story problems on this test are going to be easy in that you will already be given the equation. You just have to figure out where to put things. Okay, so now let's talk about how to do this. If the original problem is given to you in exponential form, then I want the answer in exponential form. So what would you do when you multiply? You add exponents. So isn't 1/7 plus 4/7 5/7? So my answer on this would be this. Leave it in exponential form if it's given in exponential form. Okay? So this is given in exponential form, but I think that a lot of kids think this is easier to do if you switch it. The negative sign would bring it to the bottom. And so wouldn't this be 1 divided by the cube root of x squared, right? So if I think about that, we did these problems yesterday. I would multiply by the cube root of x over the cube root of x, because then my denominator would be the cube root of x cubed, which would just be a plain old x, right? And so then the top would just be the cube root of x. So this would be my answer on this. I can't simplify it any more than that. Okay? So try this practice question and pause it and see what you get for an answer. Okay? Common denominator. So this would be x to the 3/5. So x to the 3/5 would be right here. So that would be my answer. And then let's take a look at this. Because I had messed up here. I don't really want to remake this video. So my final answer on this, since it gave, we're just going with this because I even said it and it is almost 10 o'clock at night and I'm making this video. So the original problem was given to me in exponential form. So I would need to write this as x to the 1/3 over x because it was given in exponential form. This answer is also correct and we will practice with this. But I just want you guys to know if it's given as an exponential, I don't want radicals. I want this answer down here. Okay, this is the right answer for this. So now let's do this practice. So try this guy. I would rewrite it personally. It makes it a little easier. This is because of the negative. That would bring it to the bottom. So this would be the 4th root of y cubed. So to make that a perfect 4th, I'm going to multiply it by the 4th root of y, because then I would have the 4th root of y to the 4th, which just comes out y. So then I would do the top, which is a 1, so I'm going to times by the 4th root of y, and I can't do anything with that, the 4th root of y, but if I look over here at my answers, none of those match. And so I would then rewrite this into what is called exponential form, because this would be y to the 1/4 divided by y. And if I look, that's this answer right here. So understand that when it's given to you in exponential form, I want my answer in exponential form. If it's given you with a radical, then you would have a radical in your answer. Okay, so it wants me to simplify this. So I can't, this is where a lot of you mess up. You want me to multiply by the cube root of 2. Don't write this down. This is wrong. Okay, if I multiply by the cube root of 2, that gives me the cube root of 4. Well, 4 is not a perfect cube. So this is why we did what we did yesterday. I don't want you to multiply by the cube root of the same thing because it's not a perfect cube. What is the next perfect cube that 2 goes into? Doesn't it go in? I want this to say the cube root of 8. So I would multiply by the cube root of 4. And that would give me 2. Okay, but here is the issue. And this is why, because some of you are like, well, why are we learning these fractions? This problem right here is it. Because my denominator is not the same. This is 16, right? And this is 4. So I'm going to show you a little trick. Can't I rewrite 16 as 2, the 6th root, I'm going to write it out so you can see it, 2 to the 4th, and can't I rewrite 4 as 2 squared? So wouldn't that, I'm going to put these as fraction, wouldn't this be 2 to the 4/6 times 2 to the 2/3, right? And so when I do that problem, wouldn't I be able to reduce the 2 to the 2/6 to 2/3? And what do you do with these? When you multiply, you add them. So that's 2 to the 4/3 over 2. Okay, but I need to write it now as a radical. So wouldn't this be the 3rd root of 2 to the 4th over 2? Okay, well, we need to think about that for a second, because can't I rewrite this? I'm going to use a different color. There's a lot of work on this guy. Can't I rewrite this as the cube root of 2 to the third times 2? Because wouldn't that be 2 to the fourth? So then what is the cube root of 2 to the third? Because just this one would come out. And you end up getting 2 cube root of 2 over 2. So my 2's cancel. And my answer on this question, after all of this work, is the cube root of 2. So my suggestion after I did this problem, you probably want to do your homework. I have no idea how you're going to do this problem without practicing it. So do your homework and then email me any questions that you have. So try this one. If I were you, I would rewrite this to begin with. This is going to be the 6th root of 2 squared and 4x to the 4th. Because then I can rewrite this as 2 to the 2 sixths, x to the 4 sixths. Well, can't I reduce 2 sixths to being 2 to the 1/3 and x to the 2/3? So they both have 3's underneath. So aren't they both going to be in a cube root? So this would be the cube root of 2x squared, which is my final answer. I am done. Again, how are you going to be able to figure these out? I would strongly suggest doing your homework. Okay, on this one, it might help you. I would rewrite this because I would rewrite it like this. The square root of y plus 1 divided by the square root of y minus 1. Because we've dealt with radicals before. We did i's. And so wouldn't I multiply by the conjugate, which would be the square root of y plus 1? Because then on the bottom, I would have the square root of y squared plus the square root of y minus the square root of y minus 1. Well, wouldn't my middle things cancel? And isn't the square root of y squared going to be y minus 1? So I got that taken care of. Now on the top, I would do the same thing. And so this is going to be the square root of y squared plus the square root of y plus the square root of y plus 1. So wouldn't this be the square root of y squared would just be a plain old y? And then plus 2 root y plus 1. Now, honestly, this is going to make you really mad. But my original problem was in exponential. So if you write this as an answer, I would take off. Your final answer, but I will practice this, would be y plus 2y to the 1/2 plus 1 over y minus 1. So you're going to just write the square root of y as an exponential because the original problem was given in an exponential. Okay, so on this one, it's just a square root of 2. So I'm going to multiply by the square root of 2, but I'm not going to leave this 4 as 4. I'm going to rewrite this as the 4th root of 2 squared times the square root of 2 over 2. So then that would become 2 to the 2/4 times 2 to the 1/2. Well, wouldn't that be 2 to the 1/2 times 2 to the 1/2? And 1/2 plus 1/2 is 1. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my answer on this question is actually 1 on this practice question. Okay, and so on the next one, practicing this, I would rewrite this as 2 to the 4th x squared. So I would have 2 to the 4/6 times 2 to the 2/6. So this would be 2 to the 2/3 times x to the 1/3. Since my denominator is 3, I would have the cubed root of 2 squared times x. Well, isn't 2 squared just 4? So this would be the cube root of 4x, which is, oops, it made a straight line for me. I don't want that, which is right there. So that is my answer on this question. Okay. All right, last one. Very similar to the one that we already did. So I would times by x. I would actually, let's just be real. I would rewrite this to be the square root of x minus 1 over the square root of x plus 1. To me, I can work with square roots easier and then I can change. So I would multiply by the conjugate because then the bottom would cancel. I would have the square root of x squared. Can I do this in my head? Minus that, so it would just be this, which ends up being x minus 1. So if I was taking an ACT, I know I can cross this answer off because it's an x minus 1 on the bottom. So then I would do the top, and it would be the square root of x squared minus root x minus 1 root x. So that would be minus 2 root x plus 1. So the square root of x squared is an x minus 2x to the 1/2, because that's under the square root, plus 1. So that would be this answer. Okay. So just, I would just strongly suggest, if you're having problems, to work the homework questions and then send me what questions you have, or if you email them to me or put them on the comments during the Google Meet, because like we'll do questions tomorrow at the beginning of class. Every day at the beginning of the class while you guys are gone, I'm going to do homework questions. So you can always send them to me on the Google Meet and we can work them.